Hi, everyone. I'm Ben Gonzalez, and this is TDI. So we're about halfway through hurricane season at this point. We've had a couple of significant storms. So today we're going to talk about ways to make sure you don't end up with a used car that might have spent some time in the floodwaters. And joining us today is Fred Lohman from the National Insurance Crime Bureau. He's Director of Operations for the Southwest region. Hello, Fred. How are you doing today?
Wonderful. Thanks for having us.
Well, thanks for doing this. So before we get into the flooded cars topic, tell us a little bit about the Insurance Crime Bureau and what the mission of the organization is.
Well, the National Insurance Crime Bureau is the nation's premier insurance fraud organization. In other words, we, for 108 years, have combated insurance crime in the United States, starting with vehicle thefts and vehicle fraud back in 1912 to the modern day NICB that basically is responsible for combating all types of insurance crime across the spectrum.
All right, that sounds good. I know you work closely with our fraud team.
Yes, we do. We work very closely with Associate Commissioner Davis and his staff and have a really good relationship with them. A lot of it, and sadly, during times of catastrophe, we work very closely with his organization.
Definitely. Well, the storms that we've seen have been significant, but not large scale like the Katrinas or the Ikes, but they did cause some flooding. So what happens when a car spends some time underwater?
Well, the modern day automobile is really nothing more than a computer on wheels, right? Very sophisticated electronic system from the engine control modules that control all aspects of that vehicle, transmission and engine's performance, to the infotainment systems that deliver your radio and Bluetooth functions. So it's a very robust electrical system in modern day automobiles. And of course, electrical components don't mix well with water. So when a car goes under the floodwaters, there's going to be significant damage to those electronic components, and that certainly can impact the vehicle's roadworthiness and can make very unsafe conditions for somebody that's trying to operate one.
And besides the roadworthiness, those components, I guess, are very expensive to replace, so it's kind of easy to get beyond the car's value.
Exactly, and that's why you see in the aftermath of a catastrophic event such as a hurricane with significant floodwaters, and when you have a large population of vehicles that are subjected to floodwaters, when they buy these things, if they have a little larceny in their hearts and they're looking to make a dollar, they're not going to spend and invest the money to change out those critical component parts. They're going to clean that vehicle up the best they can, make it look as good as it can to a consumer, and then sell that vehicle without disclosing the underlying damage that's occurred to it. And that creates, really unsafe conditions for consumers. And, that's the last thing that we want to see, especially when our families are driving down the highways with these cars also.
And I guess they can get it to be in a working or semi-working condition, but that corrosion is still going on and systems can fail even if it looked like it was okay at the moment you purchased it.
That's correct. So you may be able to drive that vehicle for a couple of weeks, couple of months, but at some point those systems will fail because of the corrosion that's caused by the floodwaters.
Going back to the insurance angle, a lot of times the cars that do get wet or get into floods are declared losses. But is there any way that a simple way for consumers to find out whether or not a car has been in a flood?
Well, absolutely. And the first thing would be to do your due diligence as a consumer, as a buyer of an automobile. If you're going to buy a vehicle, you want to do a pre-inspection before you hand over your hard-earned money. And there are some telltale things you can look at when you inspect that vehicle. For example, pull up the carpeting, look under the carpeting, look for signs of silt or beach sand that will be underneath the carpeting and in the insulation pad. Look for corrosion on the metal screws or the ferrous metal parts of the vehicle. They'll typically rust a lot faster than other metal parts. You want to look at for example, the spare tire holder. Pull that out, look down in there, because that's a spot that they typically miss when they clean up the car and make it look good. They'll miss the silt, and you'll see the corrosion in that particular area as well. Look in the engine compartment around the rubber boots that cover the electrical systems. Look for any sign of corrosion on the copper wiring. With copper, it'll turn green. Patina is what they call. Mm-hmm. And it's very apparent when you see that's been exposed to water. Look in for example, the center console. That's not typically a place that you get accumulation of water. You take everything out of there, look down there, and you'll see those mounting screws. Those will typically rust. Again, it's another indication that it could have been flooded. But the most important thing, get it inspected by a certified mechanic. Take the time, spend a little money, protect yourself, have that vehicle thoroughly examined and inspected by a reputable mechanic. And then the next thing, pull a Carfax report or a similar type of vehicle report and see what the history of the vehicle is. And then I would encourage everybody to go to the NICB website called VINCheck at www.nicb.org and run that VIN for the car that you're looking at through VINCheck to see if that vehicle shows up as a flood damaged vehicle.
VINCheck, is that free for consumers?
That's free. That's a program that the National Insurance Crime Bureau developed in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. We had close to 1 million vehicles that were flooded at that event. And so the NICB cataloged all those vehicles that were impacted by that catastrophe. They were entered into that database, and the main reason was to inform consumers and to place in their hands a tool that would help them protect themselves from being taken advantage of. And this was in collaboration and cooperation with the insurance industry. So the insurance companies that basically then owned those salvage vehicles after they paid the claims, they provided the NICB with the ability and the authority to provide that information to the consumers in the U.S.
And it's simple. You don't have to request paperwork or anything like that. You just have to put that VIN into the finder.
That's correct. But the more, the better. When you're turning over your hard-earned money, you want to make certain that you're not, being taken advantage of. So do your due diligence, do the inspection, have a mechanic look at it, run it through VINCheck, and pull a Carfax report or similar type of car reporting report, and make sure that car doesn't have any secrets to it.
All right. Thanks, Fred. Those are great tips for our viewers today. So if you have questions, be sure to visit the NICB website and check out VINCheck if you need it. And you can also visit our website. It's tdi.texas.gov to learn more about auto insurance. You can also use our helpline, which is 1-800-252-3439, to report any kind of suspected fraud or ask questions that you have about your insurance. So for Fred Lohman, I'm Ben Gonzalez. This is TDI.